So just trees on a bank, a very simple run through of my approach to this great little exercise. So we're going to start with a bank. We're going to put dots to the left and right. This is going to be the top of the bank. A few little dots just to suggest where the top of the bank is. Do it a little bit wavy and maybe slightly higher on the left to the right. Little angles going down, so this is the suggested angle of the bank, and we make it less pronounced the further to the right. So as we swoop across there, we just get the angles of the bank to give a suggestion, a description later on. So we'll put 4 or 5 trees in. I'll say the height of the tree, number 1, and the width. Just broken line going around. All we're thinking about is the overall shape of the outside of the tree. And a little line down just for the trunk. Number 2 we'll make slightly smaller. Width again with dots, and then bring this round nicely just to the bottom. Trunk again, but where this tree, number 1, overlaps number 2, we just stop the drawing there. Number 3, same again, we've got width and height. Bring the line round and line again. Number 4, width, and a very final one, again the smallest of the bunch. But again, every time all we're suggesting is broken line, the overall shape of where the foliage goes to, and that's all we need, and a little trunk underneath. Nothing more. Keep your drawing as simple as possible. So a little break time after all that exertion, and then we'll join again and get on with the painting stage. So I hope you enjoyed your little break there, and we'll start with the painting stage straight away. Let's get straight in there. So I'm going to start with the large brush, the large size 16. Clean water on the brush there. We're going to suggest that the light is coming from the top left. So water there clogged in the clean brush. We'll just place that down and drag it around the inside of the tree. Now this is broken, dappled, but we'll leave a little bit of a gap on the right hand side where the two trees join, because I want to keep them separate just for a little while. So second tree, water, inside, dappled, a little bit of a gap. Same again. Same again. So each time I'm just replenishing the water in the brush there and just throwing it on. All very simple. So we have water within the 5 trees. The lightest side is going to be this side nearest the sunshine. We've gone for lemon yellow. So just place the brush down, lift and move. And what we're trying to do there is capture the light, the way the sunshine hits the side of that tree, and just place the brush down. Second tree, less lemon yellow. Third tree, less. And fourth tree, even less. So the light's hitting those in varying degrees. So the consistency of this pigment, I would suggest, is coffee. So on the 4 scale of strength of pigment, we've got tea, coffee, cream and butter. So I would say this one is coffee. So now we're going to use sap green, second colour. I'm just going to place that down next to the lemon yellow, and not directly into it, so it lets it bleed back into the lemon yellow. Again, coffee strength with the big brush, And again, only take it so far. Again, second tree, third tree, and again the edge of the tree behind the first one and then the second one will negatively pick out the shape of the one in front. Now the fourth tree, I'm just going to start with sap green at the top, and that's my light colour. So now we've got our fourth colour, which is Perulean green, dark rich green. Again, coffee strength, and bring this closer to the edge of the first tree to the right hand side. Let it bleed, still leaving the gap there, you can see that. Second colour, I'm going to offer a little bit more Perulean on that one. Third colour, no, third tree rather should I say, Perulean again. Fourth, Perulean predominantly at the bottom, each one getting subsequently fuller of the darker tone, and the fifth one is sap green, then into the Perulean. So again, we've got all of those colours on. Interestingly, the next colour I'm going to use is cerulean blue. So again, where the two meet, I'm just going to drop some cerulean blue in there. Notice how I'm angling the brush to be able to work with it better. I'm not just using it on a sweep on the angle as before. Let it float in and also allow some of the pigment to touch the previous tree. So this I'm suggesting is my shadow colour, which I'll do for the second tree edge as well. Just allow that to bleed across. At the top of the third one, cerulean blue, and then I'm going to flip that over and change it to Winsor Violet, and this I would say is my dark shadow colour. Fourth tree, same again, and the fifth one is far more Winsor Violet, but again just flipped around and bled in. Just allow that to bleed in and find its own way. So that floats around, melees around, mixes together, merges. Really interesting part of the painting. So now I'm just going to get tissue, kitchen tissue, place it into where it's very wet and the pigment's gathering, and just absorb some of the excess that has gathered there. Notice how I move the tissue around. It looks a little chaotic, but it's not. I'm just trying to find dry areas within that piece of tissue, and I'm just picking off excess liquid pigment as I go, even popping back. There we have everything nice and controlled now, i.e. picking off the rivers or the excess rivers of not Babylon but water and liquid pigment. Going back to the big brush, water, and I'm just dragging it down the angle of the bank. So I'm dragging the water in the direction of the object. So this is the light end of the bank. I'm going for lemon yellow at the top to about a third of the way. Then I'm going to put in cad orange, just dragging that over the bank a little, and this is my depicted sunlight on the top of the bank. Third colour, sap green. Notice how it goes slightly uphill and down just to give me that bank feel, and then the far end I'm going for Perulian Green. What I shall do with Sap Green is I'll just move from the bottom up the bank, so I'm pushing the brush in a reverse angle, and I'm just cloaking the colour that's been placed there. Again, at the bottom of the bank I'm going to offer a little bit of Perulian Green, or sorry, Windsor Violet, and this is where the shadow is at the bottom of this little cul-de-sac or bank. Not particularly cul-de-sac, there's no cars there, there's no turning, it's just a nice countryside feel to the whole piece. Got all of the pigment on, just pop back in, give this a few seconds, I would say 30 seconds to a minute, something like that, just to let it take. But I'm just picking this off to run you through the process there. So everything's on the bank there, you can see the light hitting the top there, and then the suggestion of grass of the bank, the colour, and then the actual shadow colour as well. So now I'm going to go over to the trusty rigger, and I'm going to start with Indian Red. I'm going to start with this on the first tree. First I'm just going to get the suggested trunk in place, drag the Indian Red down to the bank, and then go back up and flick it into the tree. So these are the main trunk, and then the suggested lit branches cloaking and just holding the tree. Second one, again Indian Red, doesn't have to be dead straight, just put it at a bit of a tapering angle, and we just move that brush across, and that gives us the trunk and the tree branches just cloaking it. Third one, again get the trunk in place. This is now, I'm going to use the burnt umber with a little bit of Windsor Violet. So we're getting gradually darker as we go along. Fourth one, again Windsor Violet, and again with the darker tone. And the fourth one I'm going to use my darkest yet in indigo. Again, trunk in place, taper it into the bank, allow the pigment to bleed into the bank a little or a lot, whatever happens will happen. And then again we just flick these out into the tree to cloak it and show where it actually grabs on. Now great things happening here, the colours are merging into the top of the bank, giving a natural sort of bonding with the bank, and also giving a sort of suggested impressionistic reflective glow of the actual trunk into the grass. This wouldn't happen in real life, but in our imagined atmospheric style of painting this is permissible. So I've got everything on there, this is all bleeding nicely. What I'm going to do now is go back to Perulian and just offer a suggestion of, this is Perulian actually with a little bit of Windsor Violet in, of a suggested shadow draping down the bank in a little bit of a darker tone. Tree number 1, tree 2, tree 3 I'm going to go for more Windsor Violet. I'm actually tapering the angle more, so making it more pronounced to level up with the bank at the distance. So these are quite direct, and then it tapers off towards the right hand side, so that gives that nice glow going down. So everything bleeding away there, doing its thing, painting itself. I'll just get a little bit of tissue and pick a little bit more excess on, because it does regather, and lighten a few little bits as well. Just pick off a bit of pigment There we go. Also on the bank, can do the same there. I'm actually picking it off in the direction of the object. That's the shape of the bank as it goes down. So there we have all of the colours on there, all nicely flowing together, finding their own way, doing their own thing. So we'll have a little break now, and then we can just pop back and put on the last little details. So all we're going to do is put some detail in a few of the tree areas. All I've got now is the rigger, and I'm going to place down some liquid pigment in a slightly darker tone than is in that area already. So I'm going for a sap green along the edges, not edges, but the inside of the tree on the left, the very first tree. We've got the liquid pigment down, and then I just run water up to the back edge of the pigment I placed down. So just clean water, push it up, let it bleed back, and there we have it. It just defines a little foliage in a very simple way. So the negative edge is the edge that defines the shape. So we move across a bit where it's a little darker. Again, just drop the pigment on. This is a dark, sort of a darker tone, Perylene mix, just to get the so it stands out against the already placed background. Place it on, clean water, place it down. Place it on, water, and let it bleed back. There it goes. So we'll just allow that to float round, and again do its own thing. Smaller little bits. Once we've got some on, we can fill in smaller little areas, but we're only just giving a suggestion of foliage, because you won't see individual leaves at this sort of distance. And also we don't want to do that anyway, we just want a suggestion of what's happening. So second tree, again follow the shape of the tree. There may be some natural shapes that you pick out with the particular tree you're trying to achieve. Just give it a little bit of thinking time. How would you depict that? What is the key definition, the key movement of that sort of foliage on the tree you're working with? See how delicate it is? It's not a heavy line, it's quite subtle. Again, dark side, and try not to make it too repetitive, i.e. all long lines, too short and long. Do a combination of the two. Then we push the water up, bleed it down, and that picks out some definition. Third one, I'm going to start stronger, lines on, and notice how I use the rigger. Halfway, just dragging it across, touching it down occasionally, dragging it a little. So it's a variation of marks on the already used paper, or already toned paper shall we call it. And then on the dark side I'm going to go for Winsor Violet. Drag that round, so you can imagine if we left it like that, that would be fairly abrupt, fairly strong, so I don't need that. And again, the further along the trees we go, the darker I start with the tone, because the background, as you recall, was fairly diminishing in light the further along we go. So this one, Winsor Violet, place it on, drag the water up, and this definitive edge between the trees is an important one. We can use a bit of negative work in there just to enhance the shadow effect from the previous tree, and that just finds its own way back. Fourth one, just a little here, and there's an interesting combination, a little bit of definition because the distance, but we'll just use it to break the line of the trees. So just a little bit of definition there. That's almost in silhouette because the colour's been bleached out at that distance. So I've got all the line work on there. Just on the actual trees themselves, or the trunks of the trees, I'm just going back in with the slightly darker tone. I'm going back in with sepia, just on the dark side of the tree. So little touches are enough. So it's where the sunshine is not getting, and it's just allowing the light of the already placed down pigment to shine out, and then the dark we put on is where the light's cut away. So this on the third tree is Windsor Violet. Fourth one, Windsor again just on the right hand side. And the fifth one, we'll just reiterate it with a little bit of indigo. So very finally, the last thing I'll do is with the rigger, I've got liquid pigment on, and I'll just place it at the bottom of the first tree and just drag the brush down, only a little way. We don't want to get into a repeat shape of the tree echoing on the bank, because we get too restricted, too detailed again. We're getting dragged into that little trap of offering too much information. A few little dots and dashes to break up the line, and then just at the bottom, clean off the rigger, just water, and just bleed it off so it disappears. So an essence of the colours there, but it's nondescript. It's it's not jumping out at you there. So there is a very concise, quick run through of a few trees, 5 trees together on a bank with the sunlight glowing from left to right, hence the shadows, hence the light. Everything's thought of in the form of light to dark. So a good one there for you to try. I'm sure you'll have fun, and I'd be surprised how much you'll actually learn as you go through this process of the 5 trees on a bank. So good luck, and I shall catch you again very soon.